presents the unbeliever as, why don't you believe in God as just a form of fire insurance? You know, just believe in God, and if you're wrong, you're terribly, you're not terribly wrong at all. If there's nothingness after we die, then you just had a nice religious life. But if you're an atheist and you're wrong, then it's a terrible sort of thing. And so the problem is I think Christopher's quite right on this. To believe in God that way is not really trusting in Him. It's not really loving Him. It's not really believing Him. It's using Him as a hedging.
The him means nothing, though, to Christopher. You keep going to that point, but for him, when you say, "Well, trusting in Him," he doesn't get to that point. So you're skipping ahead in the conversation, and he doesn't get to that point.
But notice what the pastor does say. He says that your belief in God, if you have one, should be sincere. It shouldn't be a vulgar bet that dissolves your intellectual integrity. That frees you from having to inquire. Says, "I'll bet that way, and I'll lead my life."
Oh, that question it's an interesting question.
It's like taking a bribe. Taking a bribe.
Right.
I wanted to get to a real important question here. When we talk about what's happening after death, is Christopher betting that it really is nothingness, or is that part of the universe that we know?
All right, when we come back, we'll get into more of that. Also, your calls, 800-876-4123, and the nature of suffering. How does, as C.S. Lewis grappled with, how does a just God, a loving God, allow for children with cancer, people to die these horrible deaths, starvation? How can this happen? We'll get into that subject. Don't go away.
Ingraham Show.
Imagine there's no heaven. Sees if you try.
I don't think it's that easy. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. Of course, we're huge Beatles fans on the Laura Ingraham Show. Whether you're doing the Hare Krishna thing, you're doing the No Heaven thing, you still can make great music. But I've got to say,
not the Hare Krishna.
I've got to say, that you're a big music fan. Is it not true that the gospel music is among the most beautiful music, and I would say divinely inspired music out there, Christopher? Devotional
music is a wonderful thing, as is devotional architecture, and some of the poetry too, especially John Donne and George Herbert. But we never really know whether these people believe.
So divine inspiration.
I mean, Verdi, for example, could write you a very good requiem, but he wasn't a believer. So you wouldn't know it from listening. You don't really know.
The problem of pain. Pastor Wilson, we have a very short segment here. The problem of pain. How does a just God justify it?
Well, the basic answer is this is the larger problem of evil. How can a good God allow suffering and evil in the world? And the Orthodox Christian answer relates it to our rebellion against Him. We are not neutral beings. We are beings in rebellion. We are sinful. So the world contains suffering because we walked away from God and
original
resisted
sin.
Him. Original sin.
The original sin, Christopher.
Well, or rebellion. Well, again, to me, it's a meaningless question. I mean, if I was a believer, by the way, I wouldn't go around asking God for an explanation. I wouldn't think He owed me one. I mean, by definition, who am I to ask? But what Pastor Wilson says can be summarized in the following form: we're created sick, and we're ordered to be well. We are playthings. God declared that we rebelled against it. We didn't know we'd done it. We'd only sought knowledge of good and evil, according to the story, with the talking snake.
When he told us not to.
So now you've rebelled. Now, so people who want knowledge have brought evil into the world. So, in other words, it's all the fault of people like me that there's suffering in the world. Now, this is a nonsensical position, quite nonsensical. Not to say wicked.
I don't think the Pope would say you're the reason evil comes
free
into the
thinking
world.
and free inquiry. Yeah, well,
I don't think
wicked,
so.
He's flirted with that.
No,
Christopher, if I persist in holding these wicked opinions, who's going to judge me for them?
I am, among others.
The ultimate deity. The Hitch is the ultimate deity.
I'll be the judge. I'll be the judge.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere near that throne. I'm not submitting myself to that judgment.
In the short time that we have, not just on the air today, but on the planet in general, I think the least possible time should be spent being told what to do by those who say they have God's permission to do so.
Sure, but you're telling me you're telling me not to say wicked things, and I'm saying, well, suppose I keep on doing it. What's going to happen to me?
Well, I get where you're coming from.
Well, you'll look silly in this life.
Well, where does but where does the concept of wicked? I mean, where
the
does
punishment
that come from?
The punishment is already upon you. I mean, millions of people just heard you say this awful thing.
Christopher Hitchens and Pastor Douglas Wilson, fascinating conversation, and I will sure have both of you back. Good luck on the tour. I know you guys will be going out there. Stay with us.
Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for this.
The Laura Ingraham Show.
My old mother. It was good for my old mother. It was good for my old mother.